Hey again. Welcome to another episode of Mental Roots. It's me, Nathan Day. Here just giving you some great conversations that I've had with various friends of mine who are just sharing what it's like to be a young black person navigating the topic of mental health. So we've been doing this for a while, and I say we now, it's not me anymore, it's not just me. I'm starting to get some people to help me with putting this together. So shout out to the team straight off the bat. And this is obviously part 2 of my chat with a great guy, Terrel, who's practicing in law. And well, maybe the word law is a bit too much of a simplification, but nevertheless, if you go catch up on part 1, great conversation, just kind of exploring his roots, as a young black guy growing up in the UK, and kind of sharing his school days and kind of how he grappled with that and self-identity and all that stuff. So in this second part, it gets even more interesting. We start peeling back layers on loads of different aspects to mental health, including diet, and talking about his occupation as well, representation within that field, the pressure to work hard as a young black person, and very meaty second half. So let's get into it. But before we do so, I just want to let you guys know again, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube. Engage. We're trying to grow this platform. We need more platforms like this, man. They're still heavy. I mean, with COVID and everything, obviously the stigma on mental health has lifted quite a bit, but we've still got quite a long way to go in terms of being educated and sharing helpful resources, especially within the black community. So we still need stuff like this. So share this stuff, share it with your friends, people who will benefit from it. And if you want to help out with the podcast, again, email us at mentalrootspod@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Mental Roots Podcast on Instagram. Various different roles that you can help us out with. Enough of me babbling on. Let's get straight into part 2 of my chat with Terrel. Let's go. So so what made you want to choose the kind of law route? And do you see a link between your sense of finding what you're good at and what your calling is, and the impact that had on your identity?
Well, let me just say this. I've been trying to get into and have been in the legal industry for so long now that it's just by force now. So I'll say that. But I don't know, I got an interest in law really young.
Okay.
When people go to interviews and they're like, "Oh, I've always wanted to be a lawyer." Mine has actually been that, it's
Yeah.
not just some made up anecdote, but so we went on a family trip, right? When I was like 12. Literally, I
Okay.
was like 11, 12. And my auntie had this book called Ugly by Constance Briscoe. You might have heard of it.
I don't know. What does it look like? Was it a picture book or?
No, it's an autobiography, and it
Okay.
has like a young child on the front of it. If you search it up, Ugly by Constance Briscoe, you'll see it, and you might have seen it before because it was really popular at the time.
Okay.
So I was about in year 6, if that, yeah.
But just for
And
context, I'm 23. I don't know what age you are, but there might be a bit of
uh,
a gap there. I
yes,
don't know.
yeah. So I'm 25.
Oh, okay. It's
Yeah,
same generation then.
yeah. It's not that far off. So
Mm.
so she had that book, and I don't know what I was doing at the time. I think we had just come back from an activity or something, and everyone
Mm.
was just relaxing. And so I just picked up the book and started reading it, and
Okay.
I was really compelled. It's about this. It's about this is a UK black woman who
Mm.
became a judge and a barrister. Um, A barrister is a type of lawyer. So you have a solicitor or a barrister. A barrister is usually the one who will do advocacy and go to court.
Okay.
So she became a barrister and she became a part-time judge. And she just came from massive adversity. She came from a really poor background, and she was abused. As
Mm.
she put forward by her family. Based on the way she looks. That's why it's called ugly.
Okay.
And she was literally starved and abandoned and stuff like that. And she still managed to pick herself up and become a barrister, which I was really blown away by at that young
Mm.
age. So from there, I started thinking, okay, I want to be a barrister now.
Mm.
And luckily, the passion didn't dissipate. When I was 15, I started getting some work experience. I had work experience at court, a magistrate's court, which was really good. And from there, I just started to pick up experience along the way. And here we are today. So I
Mm.
think over the years, I've analyzed that it does link to my skill set. It does sort of suit me as a person, I hope. So my
Mm.
identity is really rooted in law.
Mm.
But I still keep my mental health, you know, at the forefront and always considering it, because mental health and law is a whole different thing, and I can talk to you for 10 years about that, because
Mm.
it's just a very demanding profession. It's historically elitist, and it's very traditional and
Mm-hmm.
rigid, and change is slow in the legal industry. It's only now that they're getting a real kick up their ass because of COVID.
Mm.
Um, and for that reason, that can be really difficult for someone who you know, is from a different social mobility or a different race from the norm,
Mm.
of traditional white men.
Mm.
So, it's just about navigating that well and remaining true to yourself throughout,
Mm.
which is what I'm trying to do. But I think, yeah, my identity over time expanded and I connected it more to law. I was too young at the time when I first was interested to really know if this would work out. I just kept trying. And then
Mm.
before I knew it, it was like, whoa, 5 years has passed and I'm
Mm.
now.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into the practicalities of what good mental health looks like for you, man. So, over the past few years, what things have you been doing to help you improve and maintain your mental health? And basically, like, what advice would you give just from your experience in terms of what is what has helped you as a black man to have good mental health?
One thing I'd say is patience with everything,
Mm.
because you have a lot of pressure on you as it is, as a young black person, regarding regardless of what career you're trying to embark on in this country. There's a lot of pressure on you, whether it's financial, whether it's racial biases, whether it's judgment. And I think you just need patience with yourself and the
Mm.
situations around you and what you're going for to really continue, and to
Mm.
manifest what you're trying to achieve. So that's what I've really tried to exercise, some patience and some really good communication, with all types of relationships that you have. I think oftentimes we try to prioritize good communication for romantic relationships only, and all
Mm.
of them need it, platonic ones, family ones, all types of relationships need that nurturing. And feel free to be open with people that you trust and who are genuinely willing to support and help you. So that would
Mm.
be my advice in terms of um, um, boost, if mental health boost. Really see if you can get into a hobby you're passionate about and don't necessarily feel like you need to monetize that. So anything that you're
Mm.
interested in, whether it's sports, whether it's volunteering, whether it's writing, whether it's just Instagram, if you like to post pictures, do that, and do it at your will and in the way that you want.
Yeah.
So that's for me how I sort of look at it. It's twofold. It's either more longer term stuff like patience and good communication, and
Mm.
then it's shorter term stuff like listening to music,
Mm.
reading the Bible, immersing myself in the Word, and spending time with people that's dear to my heart. I think those will really give you the boost that you need. So that's what I'd advise.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I like that. And we've in this podcast, it's no secret that I'm a Christian as well. So faith is a big part as well. And faith is an interesting thing because obviously within African and Caribbean communities, there's a real tradition of church, but in terms of making it clear what the personal benefit is, especially for a young person, I think that's what we need to improve on in the black community, that spirituality shouldn't conflict with the science of mental health, but it should complement it. So I know we're taking a bit of a segue now, but I know you mentioned delving into the word, so I think this is probably worth looking at as well. What, how, I guess, how do you reconcile the importance of the practicalities of looking after yourself mentally versus, having faith in God? How do you marry your spiritual life and, um, yeah, the physical practicalities of having good mental health, if that makes sense? So, for example, the communication, talking with people, and what we've been taught in the focus groups, such as breathing exercises, are those also practical tools that you've used? And yeah, how do you combine that with your spirituality to help you with your physical and emotional well-being?
I think they are definitely practical tools. This is
Mm,
an interesting one because this is something I've discussed with other people before as well. I think sometimes with faith, and we've been nurtured this way as well. You
mm,
know, sometimes when people are dealing with something and they come to you or vice versa, yeah, it's good to encourage them to pray, and it's good to encourage them to immerse themselves in the word. But I also think it's okay to you know have that person or a certain activity or situation as a vessel for you
mm.
to maintain your faith. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be either or, because sometimes people in the church may be really struggling with something but feel they shouldn't or don't deserve to raise that or ask for help because it is, well, God will help me, God will provide, and of course He will. But God is giving these people around you, or God is putting certain things in place to champion that transition for you to
Yeah,
develop
yeah.
your mental health in a positive place. Allow that to happen. The two can be amalgamated. That's what I feel. So it doesn't have to be this separation of, well, if I decide to listen to some music that isn't necessarily that uplift myself, I'm turning my back on God. I don't think that's the case.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Um, like for me, I can definitely relate to that because I think I'm grateful for my parents, especially my mum, because well, my mum especially, she comes from a science background. She did chemistry in uni, so recently she's been looking more into. Obviously, we've been praying, and I have a younger brother, and he's had his own kind of mental struggles over the years. So right now, he's having remote counseling, and it seems it's benefiting him. He's learning how to articulate what he's been going through.
That's really positive.
Yeah, so I think it's because of COVID as well. It's really brought to the surface a lot of the underlying issues that we have, and as a family, as a black family, I feel like in a way it's been a blessing because it's just like God, to bring into the light what is hidden, right? So we've kind of looked at the silver lining of COVID in the sense that it's brought us closer as a family, and my brother's now been able to get counseling by the grace of God, and also my mum's looking into the influence of diet on your mental health as well. So we're still praying,
Mm,
still using the anointing oil and everything, but also looking at and I'm even as I'm saying this, I'm learning more as well that the health of your gut has a lot of influence on mental health. So research has shown
definitely.
actually that in fact a lot of children who have autism, um, a lot of that is to do with the gut health that they have when in their early years. So there's some cases where some children's autism, depending on the severity, can actually be treated purely by improving their gut health. And so my mum's just been dropping facts on me, and I'm like, oh wow, I need to I need to look into this for myself. And it goes to show again, like this is the simple things, right? Like, sure, there's a spiritual element, and as Christians, we do believe, that the enemy exists and that there's, prayer that should be done, but that should be matched with, and even the very idea of what faith is. Faith isn't just something you think and believe. I think it even says in James, the book of James in the New Testament, that faith and deeds go hand in hand, basically. Like,
Exactly.
like if you have faith that you're going to get well, your deeds will reflect the lifestyle of someone who is well, i.e., eating
Right.
well, making sure you're eating your greens, you're having your vitamins, not eating loads of sugar, like all these things, that in itself is evidence of the faith that you have in, a well body. Because for you to be well on the outside, you have to have the mentality of being well. It's a whole attitude that comes with it. So yeah, just from my experience, man, I'm also looking at ways I mean, fortunately, I've been brought up well to have a good diet. And as a working class family, my parents have done well to, you know, move up the property ladder. And that way, it's influenced the things that we're able to buy. So we're still able to buy, fairly organic things. And that's like a whole other subtopic in itself, because when you think about the financial situation of a lot of black families, and it'll be interesting to hear what your perspective is growing up and the sort of food you ate. But obviously in Western society, a lot of the cheap foods are highly processed, full of chemicals
Mm.
that are a detriment over time to our physical health and therefore to our mental health. And so one thing that's helped me with that is looking at health supplements, right? A lot of the foods that grow in Africa and Ghana, even for example, recently I learnt about this fruit called the noni fruit, which grows in Ghana. And the noni fruit, I mean, you can't eat it raw because it's quite a strong fruit, but usually people would leave it out for a long amount of time for the juice to come out of it. And that juice is so strong, like in some cases, it's even helped people be healed of their cancer. So it's very powerful stuff. And like my mum introduced like our family to these health supplements that she was introduced to online, and we've started taking them, and they've been helping us kind of with our immune system, so that none of us have apart from my dad, none of us have been infected by COVID, and even then my dad recovered really well. So supplementation is another thing to consider, especially for those of us living in Western countries where we don't have access to these natural foods, full of
Exactly.
nutrients. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Before we continue, I just want to share with you something very briefly, something that's really been helping me with my concentration and productivity with all the work I've been doing, finishing uni, finishing the first 2 Mental Roots short films, which I can't wait to share with you. All of that stuff, in addition to the podcast, needs some high level concentration and motivation, especially during a pandemic. So if you're a busy guy like me, you've got loads of things going on and you want something that can boost your productivity, I highly recommend some natural caffeine energy shots that I've been using, which you can mix with tea or water or whatever you want. It's got a nice rich raspberry flavor packed with vitamins and really good natural caffeine, which doesn't give you the crash and high calories like a lot of high caffeine drinks that are commercially sold. So if you want to order those shots for yourself and see how they can help you, then check out the link in the written description for this episode on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. And if you want to let me know personally how they help you when you do order them and try them for yourself, then message me at my personal Instagram page, which is at Nath_a day. So if you're watching on YouTube, it is right here on the screen. You can see it for yourself. But if you're just listening on a podcast platform, it is at NATH_ADDAI. Message me there to find out more about that product and any other products that I've been using, because I've been using other products as well as different workout techniques and things to help improve my physical health, which in turn improves my mental health. So thanks for listening. Let's get back into the episode. Enjoy. But yeah, I'd like to hear kind of your perspective. Is nutrition and diet something you've thought about as well in terms of helping your mental health?
Yes, definitely. Even I think it was about 2 weeks ago now. I went to a nutrition diet seminar. It was really interesting about fish with high oils in them, natural high oils, vegetables, vitamins, etc. And that's something that I've always sort of been acclimatized to. So when I was growing up, it was always, we've bought these vitamins, you guys need to take it. Or here's some cod liver oil, which was disgusting. We used to have the one that's mixed with, we used to have the one that's mixed with the orange syrup.
Yeah.
That's the only way we could have it. So I was always used to nurturing the body and being mindful of what you consume, you know?
Yeah.
But as you said, finances is a massive consideration, because I remember during secondary school years, for example, a lot of people, you know, around me, and even myself included, sometimes you'd want some junk food, you know, you're
Chicken and
young, you
chips,
have a bit
bro.
of pocket money. But I
Everyone
think
goes chicken and
a lot of
chips.
people around, yeah, exactly. But I think there were some people around us that they couldn't afford anymore, you know, they couldn't afford anything else. We couldn't go into a certain shop and get a sandwich, for example, because it would be like £4.
Yeah.
And your meal from the chicken shop was £1, for example. So
Yeah.
that issue as well is something that, you know, it is hard to eat well. You know, you even touched on organic produce is it's expensive. It can be pricey,
Yeah.
especially if you've got a big family.
Yeah. I think
So
it's even a cultural
yeah,
thing as well, because I think as Black people especially, we know how to, we've created a culture around very kind of, you know, again, chicken and chips. And it's even more of a social thing, right? Like you might not even be hungry, but you know, all the man them go chicken and chip shop. So you want to, you know, just to fit in almost, you buy the same foods. And I even remember in my secondary school, it was a trend where people would buy sweets and resell them on playgrounds. So
yeah,
constantly
not
you're
just
surrounded.
sweets,
Yeah, like all the young G's.
donuts, cookies,
Oh man,
everything.
yeah. And so they'd
There
constantly
was never
be
any fruit or nuts, nothing
exactly.
like that. So
Nah, man aren't trying to sell fruits, man. What? Nah.
the
But like even that, like there was constant temptation to just even like culturally as a young person, you don't quite fit in unless you're, you know, buying the frutellas or whatever. So I think there's that culture aspect as well. But yeah, sorry, I'll let you carry on.
no, yeah, no, definitely, I agree, and I think fitting in as a young person is fundamental. You know,
Mm,
we couldn't emphasize that enough. When you're a young person, you know, a young impressionable person, being othered, especially by people who you consider your friends or popular, that is a horrifying experience for a young person. And I
mm,
think, like you said, going to chicken shops and stuff, if you feel like, you know, I actually don't feel like this today, or I don't even have the
mm,
money, but you still go. You know, it can be deeper stuff. It can be, I
mm.
don't even want to cut class, but these men are cutting class, and I ain't trying to look like no neek. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
It's so
yeah,
much things to
yeah,
consider that. Yeah, that's a massive thing, and that plays on a young person's mental well-being.
yeah. So we've just got a few minutes left. I think the last question I wanted to ask you was yeah, I think I kind of asked this already, but like maybe now you can answer it more directly. Like what let's say we, you know, a lot of the audience listening to this podcast, I looked at the stats, are around our age group, so 23 to 27. But there's also a small minority which is around 18 years and younger. So legacy and mentorship is very big to me, and with my guests, I always try and ask them what advice they'd leave, for um, an 18-year-old version of themselves or an even younger version of themselves. So, to any younger listeners who may be listening to this, what advice would you give in terms of them effectively dealing with their mental health? Because we've already said there's a lot of factors where that unfortunately it aren't easy for us to control, such as being that kid who the teacher is always, they're especially critical of you, and in a sense you feel like you can't control that, and the financial situation of your parents, the food that you eat at home. A lot of the times we don't really have a choice of what we eat growing up. So all the things that we can't control, what would be your advice in terms of other young black people? They they don't have as much independence, of thought to have the awareness that we have now. So what would your advice be for them still navigating school, sixth form, and striking the balance between making the most of what they have, but still broadening their horizons and doing what they can to have good mental health? Like, what, I know that's quite a deep question, but just from your experience, kind of what would your general advice be?
I think the fundamental advice I would offer to younger listeners is be patient with yourself.
Mm,
Be patient with yourself and understand that oftentimes your current experiences, your current problems are not flesh and blood. But if you
mm,
allow them to fester, they will become flesh and blood. So I think just be patient with yourself. Understand that productivity levels fluctuate.
mm,
Be mindful of how you address yourself, how you speak about yourself and to yourself.
mm. Yeah,
Make sure things around you are inherently positive because pressure will continue and
mm-hmm,
increase as time goes on and as you get older, responsibility will increase and come along the way as well. So just be patient with yourself, be kind with yourself,
mm,
and take the time out to really understand who you are, who you're trying to be,
mm-hmm,
what sort of impact you'd like to leave at your own pace and time. I think lots of times you feel like you're racing to get older, and it doesn't have to be like that. Just take time with yourself, be patient, enjoy all the moments that you currently have. And yeah, if you feel like you need help with something, ask for it.
mm,
Because the younger you learn that, the easier it is for you. And as I said before, these issues won't become flesh and blood. So that's what
mm.
I would say. Be patient with yourself.
Wonderful. And leading on from that, do you want to give any examples of any practical resources that have helped you? So we've mentioned Inside Out. Are there any other kind of organizations or resources, podcasts, anything that have been helping you with your mental health and
Yes,
overall well-being?
definitely. Yeah, definitely. So there's an organization called Solutions, which is spelled with a
Yeah.
C. And you can find them on Instagram. They have a website. You can find them on Twitter. They're an amazing resource, and they're all about, sort of eradicating the stigma that comes with mental health in Black and Asian, sorry, in African and Caribbean communities specifically.
Mm,
So they are definitely one to be in touch with. And I've been to numerous events that they've held,
mm,
even before the pandemic, and they do a lot of things online. They give you really good weekly affirmations and
yeah.
just things to really boost and give you positive energy. So I think be in touch with them, be connected with them. And I'd also say there's another organization I've volunteered with called Half Full, Not Empty. So it's all
Okay.
about seeing the cup as half full,
Mm,
rather than half empty. So they're an amazing organization as well. They do really good um, online events and they give you really good insights.
mm,
So just be mindful of those organizations that are really championing Black mental health, I would say, because that's what really helps me because it's specific. The
yeah.
advice is really tailored. Any mental health seminar you attend or organization you work with will be good, but there's
Mm,
some that are really tailored to our personal endeavors and our personal struggles, and that just helps you get a boost even more.
Yeah, that's wonderful, man. Yeah, and I know about solutions. I'll check out Half Full, Never Empty, you said.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. I'll check them out as well. You can forward me the details later. What I'll add to
yeah,
that as well,
definitely.
especially from the perspective of someone who's creative and making content, culture is very important. What we see in the media is very important. And thankfully,
Definitely.
because of the internet and yeah, I guess the democratization of the internet, we're seeing a lot more celebrities talking about mental health, and black people included. And also we're seeing a lot more content such as the content I'm making, where this is all part of breaking down the stigma, is that we're starting
Exactly.
conversations, on these bigger platforms. And I've started reading some books as well. In fact, I'll get a book to show quickly. So have you heard of Derek Kowusu before?
No, I
So
don't think
he's a
so.
black British author, and
Yeah,
he's written a story called I think That Reminds Me or something like that. But so he's written a few books where he's really represented wider varieties of black male identity, and he's actually got this book called Safe. So for those on YouTube, you can see the camera.
yes, I've seen it.
Yeah, I've just started reading it, and it's just this collection of really honest, transparent stories from various black British guys just telling stories, man. And that's what we need to do as young men, just tell our stories.
Definitely.
It's not about being an expert before you use a platform. I'm not an expert in mental health. I've made that very clear time and time again.
Never am I.
But I know we need to talk, man. And yeah, this book is amazing. I'm only a few pages in, but I thoroughly recommend it for all listeners, and especially if you're a young black man, check it out. So yeah, I'll put a link to this in the description for this episode, actually. So yeah, guys, resources are out there, and for those of you listening as well, Terrell, you're all right for people to connect with you, right?
Yes, definitely. Feel free to
Mm,
get in touch. Sometimes I write a little blog post about mental health and um yeah, and current awareness on my Instagram story. So feel free to get in touch.
awesome.
Asity_.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. Again, I'll put the link to Terrell's details in the description for this episode as well. And as you guys know, listening, you can reach out to me. I am via my personal account, Nath_a day, or the Mental Roots podcast page as well. But Terrell, thank you for your time, man. This has been a really edifying conversation, and I'm sure we'll have a few more like this as well.
Definitely. Thanks for having me, bro. It's been
No
amazing.
problem. Yeah. So that is it. That concludes my chat with Terrell. Very wholesome chat. I know by the time this episode comes out, it would have felt like ages away, but still very applicable. Still very applicable stuff, man. Terrell, if you're hearing this, shout out to you. Thank you for all that you've done. Guys, as he said already, go and check out his social media, his website, all of that stuff. And also, again, the affiliate links for those books by Derek Owusu, that they are in the written description for this episode on whatever platform you're listening on. So check that out. Just as a disclaimer, these are Amazon affiliate links, so any orders made through these links will allow me a small commission, which will go back into the podcast and funding everything, just to keep this thing growing and growing. So please make sure you check those books out, especially if you relate to those books as a young black man, in terms of varied stories about trauma, and it's pretty heart-wrenching stuff. I've read quite a lot of the Safe book, and the different stories in there. Very, very touching stories. So shout out to all the guys who contributed to that book, as well as Derek Owusu, who put all those different black male stories together, real stories. And that reminds me as well, the book he wrote called That Reminds Me as well. Very touching, almost autobiographical. It feels like an autobiographic, account of Derek. Very powerful stuff. So check out that literature, order it, and let's continue to support these organizations and writers and influencers who are telling these stories. I'm not the only one. I'm one of many young black people owning new digital media, print media, film, sound, and using these mediums to tell our stories, man. So let's keep it moving and support this movement as well, Mental Roots. We're going to keep it moving. Next episode is with a lovely woman called Joy, based in the US, and she has her own kind of service, helping people to heal from narcissistic abuse. So she shares a powerful story as a young black woman about some tricky stuff she's been through and what she's learned about narcissists and how to avoid becoming one as well, as because what we go through doesn't have to turn us into cold-hearted people. So powerful stuff, man. Part 1 of Joy's chat with me is not something you want to miss, so be subscribed on whatever platform you're watching or listening on, and until then, stay safe. Peace.